Want to carry on? So the body of work that we made in Cove Park was called The Views of the West Coast of Scotland. And we, with a writer, we developed a publication, a small book, looking at these very small spots of highlighted areas within the overall landscape. Insignificant, but as a group they build up this picture of a place. You find, particularly this neck of the woods in, you won't know what that means, in this area of Scotland, people drive from Glasgow, it's about an hour away. They'll park the car in a car park with their back to a view and read a newspaper. But they're in the wilderness, they're in the countryside. And we were trying to pick up on some of those themes. So it's some of these sensibilities that we try to take through into our other projects, this way of looking at a particular place and trying to draw out something of its character.
There's another type of project where it was part of the art core, which is the Clean Art in Madrid, in the public arts section of it, or the outside the gallery section of it, where we were looking at a tower block built in the 40s. And we were quite interested in how those objects are very utilitarian in our city. We tend to stop looking at them because they're functional, so they're not seen as interesting. And we wanted to bring it back as part of the environment, but without putting an object that people look at the object, but how we change the relationship people have to this object for 1 month period. So we put the legs of the water tower in a mirror, and it was next to this major roundabout, and so you kind of had this reflection, or during the day, it kind of became almost transparent, and which was really nice. People when looking at the art object messaged me that suddenly this object that was part of the peripheral vision suddenly kind of became again part of the environment.
Okay. Can you understand what we're saying and we're going slow enough and all that kind of stuff? I tend to babble. So.
Can you talk a little more Midwestern?
So at the end of the week, Josh, I'm not.
You're having a hard time.
So, in this instance, it's in a place called Fish Quay on the east coast of England, just outside Newcastle. And they were about to regenerate this area, so there's lots of, it's not spectacular, there's lots of fish processing plants, there's a very small harbour, and there's 4 fish and chip shops. And we went, and the commissioner asked us to look at the place and make a new work before it went through regeneration, before the buildings got knocked down. So we went again and again and again, and we just couldn't really connect with what was important to us. And we realised at one point that whenever we drove down there, we drove behind a fish processing factory and parked in this car park looking out to sea. And we sort of looked around and realised that that's what everybody else was doing. That every lunchtime, every evening, this car park was full of cars, people eating fish and chips and looking out to sea. Yet it's not in any guidebook, no one tells you to do it, it's just a normal human behaviour. So our project became about how do we capture something of that. So we
took the field tour as a driving cinema in different car parks in the area, where we had this projection of the film that lasted half an hour with the soundtrack that we gave to people who came and stopped us. And it was really nice because everybody, because they were likely to be from the area, recognized the place and recognized Fish Quay. And they're very likely to have been doing the same in their car, and just either looking out to sea or waving to their friends as the ferry goes by here.
So in a way, it was trying to be a celebration. So we did it on the side of the motorway, the main motorway in Britain, next to the football stadium, so people would come and park and have the same experience. It was a way of focusing on that and celebrating it to some extent.
Yeah, it's kind of introduced myself because I was studying the project how a site where you have to respond to a commission is much more than just the physical context. The social practices that are part of the site are important and often not seen as valuable.
So none of our work is what you might call medium specific. I don't know if you have the expression jack of all trades, master of none, but that's pretty much ourselves. We tend to try and collaborate with people of different disciplines and different specialties. which is why we're here with Eldorado, trying to use their skills and talents. And when we work in a place, we try to draw those things out and try to make that relevant, so we don't come with an assumption of how we're going to work. So this is just another example. And they got when we gave them the CDs and we played them in the car, they got to keep the CD and take it home as a sort of memento.
Where's the projection coming from?
It was kind of interesting because they, to have a projector outside, to have a big screen, you had to have planning permission. And we were doing it 5 different places on 5 different nights, so we needed 5 different planning permissions. So we said, well, that's just for a screen. And we said, well, if we do it on the side of a truck, which was the perfect envelope shape, the panoramic, we won't need to get planning permission, we just park the truck and project onto it. So we did that and projected out the back of another van, just running off a generator out the back of the van. But it's a huge, huge projector. It's a
Is
massive
it rear projection?
No, so the fans are probably where you are, just projecting onto.
What was on the CD?
It was the sounds. We worked with the local college in developing the film and the sound recording. So it was a sound recording of sitting there. So mostly seagulls, people shouting. One of the nice things about that particular car park is when there's a ferry that goes out to Norway or to Europe, and people drop people off at the ferry, and then you race in their car down to this, get out of the car and wave people off. So the idea was to try and capture some of that atmosphere in the soundtrack.